So we're here today talking with Kris Hayes. He is a guitar teacher with a profile on FindaGuitarTeacher.com. Kris, thank you so much for joining us today.
The New York famous Dan Smith. How are you?
How are you? Great to have you. So tell us first, where are you located and where do you teach?
All of my lessons are private in-home lessons in
Hmm.
Westchester County, New York. So I'll pretty much go, as far north as say like White Plains. I'll also go up to Greenwich. I do some sort of Greenwich area Connecticut lessons. But either side of Westchester County, we'll go over to Scarsdale and Ardsley. We'll go over to the other side and do, Rye, Larchmont, that kind of thing, New Rochelle, Pelham, pretty much anywhere in between. So, we say like central and southern Westchester County.
Understood. So you cover a lot of ground.
Yes, we do. Driving all around.
Absolutely. That's great. So tell us about the guitar teaching climate where you're located. Do you find that there's a lot of interest in learning to play guitar?
Yeah, absolutely. In Westchester, there are a lot of not only kids who like to do guitar sort of as an extracurricular thing to sort of balance out their lives. A lot of kids are sports heavy up there, so they want something that's going to be that's kind of going to balance things for them. But
Yes.
also adults. I teach a lot of adults later on in the evening who, after they put the kids to bed, they want to unwind a little bit. So.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
And what do you find are the most popular styles of guitar that people want to learn?
Most popular styles, I guess you could say probably, pop and rock. I guess that's sort of a big umbrella. But,
Sure, sure.
a lot of kids want to learn, I have a lot of female students who like to learn Taylor Swift songs. And, the younger kids, they like, Jason Mraz and that kind of thing.
Of
And
course.
the adults are all over the map. Some of them are, sort of the quintessential classic rock or blues guys.
Hmm.
I have one guy that I teach who's a punk rock guy, which is
Uh,
great because that's what
sure.
I grew up with. So
Yes.
we get to do like old TSOL tunes and
All
stuff.
right.
Yeah,
That's
so it's
pretty
pretty
deep.
much all over the map. Teach some country too. So pretty much anything that's not jazz or classical specifically, I teach.
Okay. Got it.
Those I feel that if you're going to do those styles, you really should seek out a teacher that does that.
Yes. Sure. Sure. Because those are so specialized.
Exactly.
Makes sense. And tell us a little bit about the format of your lessons. How do you schedule things and how often do you work with your students and how do you charge?
Well, the scheduling is pretty laid back. For the school year, I kind of try to have everybody stick to at least a skeletal form of a weekly slot.
Okay.
With after school stuff and with people's work schedules, I don't go 1 week without going to iCal and moving stuff around.
Understood.
But yeah, pretty much September till the beginning of June, try to keep it pretty structured. Most people go for a weekly lesson, which is what I recommend, just to
Yes.
keep things consistent. I think that's really important. I have some folks that do every 2 weeks, and that works for their schedule.
Hmm.
I even have a few who do twice a week, who are really,
Yes.
really into it. So
Yes. Sure.
I'm really flexible. This is what I do. I'm really here to make it convenient for folks. That's why I do all my lessons in home.
Yes.
I just want it to be as laid back and as fun as possible.
Understood. And can you tell us about your fees? How do you charge?
Sure. Typically, people will pay every lesson. Depending. Some folks will opt to do some sort of payment plan, which I do. Again, it's just whatever's convenient for you. I make it as convenient as possible. Depending on where I have to go, the length of the lesson, a lot of variables involved. The low end is typically around 45 for a lesson. The high end's typically around 80 for a lesson.
Understood.
Totally,
Depending on how far you have to travel, like you said.
totally depends on the situation, length and travel. Yep.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And can you tell us just in simple terms about your approach to teaching? How do you approach teaching guitar?
Well, the first thing I do when I have a new student is I say, all right, before we even have a lesson, I say, go to whatever your device is, your iPad or your iPhone or whatever, make a playlist of like 10 tunes that you really have been into lately.
Yes.
And part of the first lesson is, we sit and listen to a couple tunes and I say, yeah, this is one that you can start to learn to play, So really the focus of the lesson is learning tunes by ear that eventually leads itself to students learn how to write a lead sheet out. If there's some more sort of technical stuff involved, we'll go to some tablature, learn how to write some tablature. And then what I do like to do, not everybody chooses to do it, but I do like to read good old notation, but I don't make it the focus of the lesson. I just feel that it really rounds you out as a musician. And it lends itself to a lot of theory concepts. Students end up drawing a lot of parallels to the stuff if they're reading in the book to the songs that we're learning by ear. They'll say, oh yeah, that sounds that phrase is exactly like this in this song. So I sort of try to make it a well-rounded experience, but the focus is on the material that the student wants to learn.
Understood.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit more about your background. Can you tell us about like how did you learn to play guitar and your own music?
Well, my folks, when I was 8 years old, decided to move up to the great state of Vermont, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. And my uncle, thankfully, bought me a guitar, and I started taking lessons pretty much instantly after that. Started recording bands when I was a teenager up there, and I came down to New York. I went to the Conservatory of Music at SUNY Purchase, and I actually started teaching while I was there. I had thought coming out of school that I was going to be a full-time audio engineer, running a recording studio. At the time, that's sort of when the economy was teetering, I guess you could say. So I ended up doing more teaching than actual recording. Fast forward here, teaching at different schools. And now I'm doing full-time private lessons with my own company, Easy Plateau Productions.
That's great. Good for you.
Thanks, man.
That's cool. So tell us a little bit about your equipment. You have looks like a really cool acoustic guitar there. What kind of guitar is that?
This is the Canon. This is the trusty Gibson J45.
Yes, a classic guitar.
This is the acoustic for me. I don't know. I've owned them all. I've owned a D18. I've owned a D28. I don't know. It's just for me a J45 is it just I'm a little bit of an aggressive right hand player, and it just responds to the way that I play. So this one comes with me, I'd say, most of the time.
Yes.
I do have students who want me to do electric specifically. So
yes, I imagine you have an electric guitar there to show us.
These guys. These are actually by a small company called Collings. In Austin, Texas, and they started out making pre-war Martin guitars. When they moved into electrics, I believe this is one of the first ones that they did, which is their version of a double cutaway Les Paul Jr.
It definitely resembles that. It's a great looking guitar.
That's exactly what it is. It has a Lollar high wind P90 in it. I have two of these, and I love these things. You can play anything. You can chicken pick on these. You can you can go hard on them. They're the greatest. I love these guitars.
Yeah, sure.
And when I do the electric lessons, in 2012, Marshall did these 1-watt combo and head versions of all of the amps that they made over the years. This is a 1-watt 10-inch combo version of not only a JCM 800 as it shows, but it also does the front end of a Jubilee too. And it sounds amazing. 1-watt tube, you can bring it anywhere at any volume, and it sounds amazing.
That's cool. So obviously that's perfect for you as you're traveling around.
It's great. It's not heavy, and I don't have to be sitting there playing thinking man, it's such a drag playing through X practice amp, Yeah,
of course. Does that have a headphone jack on it for people if they want to practice at home and they want to practice on headphones, or no?
This particular one doesn't, just because of the circuitry is really, it's an old school tube amp.
Makes sense.
But when I do give students advice for purchasing gear, I'm not always going to say, well, you got to get this, no, not at all. You have to look at the situation. And for some folks, like a modeling amp with a headphone out and an MP3 in is going to be a great solution.
Sure. Makes sense.
So,
and that actually leads me to my next question, which you're already starting to answer, which is, do you offer guidance to your students about equipment selection?
Well, I have a gear podcast called Crossed Wires. And so that I feel like that might answer the question. Yeah,
Yeah, it totally does.
I'll literally talk gear all day, every day. And in fact, pretty much the only thing I miss about working in a music store is being able to talk gear.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Well, you obviously have ample opportunity regardless, but that's cool.
Totally.
So we'd love to hear you play some guitar just to get a sense of, your playing.
Definitely. Let me get this
Sure.
kind of situated.
Sure.
And we'll do it up.
So you want to mic your acoustic, you think?
Yeah, we'll just pop it up there.
Cool. Sounds good.
Should work.
Look forward to hearing the J45.
Yeah. Right.
That was great. Cool.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. The art of strumming. You do what everybody should do, which is you brought great dynamics to your strumming.
You know what? A strong right hand, I think, is super important, and I think it's something that, or left hand, if you're, if you're left hand, and I think it's something that a lot of folks don't necessarily look to at the beginning of their lessons. They think I want dexterity, in my fret hand, but that's so important.
Yeah, of course. Well, listen, Kris, it's been great to hear about your teaching and to hear you play guitar a little bit. And so thank you again for taking part in this interview.
Dan, I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Good luck with your teaching and your music, and we look forward to seeing you on FindaGuitarTeacher.com in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Take care.